The Chicago Bulls front office was ranked dead last in CBS Sports ranking of the 30 front offices in the NBA. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, I want to talk about some lineups that I want to see from the Chicago Bulls. All that, plus a little bit of the mailbag and previewing tonight's game against the 76ers. We're going to get to all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And something that a lot of people were talking about, especially after the last game, is that CBS Sports ranked all 30 front offices in the NBA. And of course, the Chicago Bulls not only ranked in the bottom tier, in tier 11, in which I can't defend what you're doing, but they ranked dead last in that tier. Now, they're amongst good company. All teams that deserve to be there. Look at the Dallas Mavericks at number 27 there, in the first one in that tier 11 group. Makes complete sense. The Doncic trade alone is going to put them there. They've made a lot of mistakes in regards to that, and even the moves that they made afterwards have been quite mind-boggling, right? Even in how they're dealing with their fan base. Like, make no mistake about it. AK and Eversley, they lie to their fans all the time. They lie to Bulls fans all the time, right? But being able or saying that you're going to ban fans for wearing a former player's jersey, listen, as bad as it's been, AK hasn't gotten any death threats yet, right? So, it is what it is there. At number 28, the Phoenix Suns, and this is one I completely agree with. You look at the Phoenix Suns and what they're spending. That alone puts them as a terrible front office. You're spending the amount of money that you are, one of the highest salaries in the entire NBA. You're going to have an over $160 million just luxury tax bill, where you're going to pay that out to the teams that don't pay the luxury tax, which the Bulls are, of course, one of those teams. So shout out to the Suns. For a team that can't even make the playoffs, you have a generational talent in Kevin Durant, right? Who's still a top 10 player in this league for sure, right? You got Devin Booker there. You got Bradley Beal there, right? 3 players making over $40 million. And you can't even make the play-in, you're damn right you deserve to be at the bottom of that list there. Next up, then they had the Sacramento Kings, right? And here's the thing. Firing Mike Brown, okay, he was former coach of the year, not consulting De'Aaron Fox, which definitely could have had a direct correlation with De'Aaron Fox winning his way out of there. You signed DeMar DeRozan. You now have your Chicago Bulls West out there. So, it is what it is, right? Like, I still think that because they have Sabonis, because they did draft a player like Murray, that I think they deserve to be a little bit higher than that, but they have made some big mistakes. And then you have the Chicago Bulls there at dead last in the NBA, in this ranking. And some of the things they have pointed out to this, they ask, does the GM have a track record? No. The Bulls have not won a playoff series under Arturas Karnisovas. Does the GM have a plan? They said it certainly doesn't seem like it. Karnisovas argued in a recent press conference that teams can win championships with 9 or 10 very good players rather than 2 or 3 superstars. Aside from being mostly untrue historically, it's worth pointing out that here the Bulls do not have 9 or 10 very good players, nor are they especially close to reaching that number, killing the Bulls. Then they said, does the front office have a trend to make good trades? Well, they managed to trade Alex Caruso to OKC, without getting a single first-round pick back. They basically kickstarted the Orlando Magic rebuild with the Nikola Vucevic trade. All accurate. They traded their best player and Zach LaVine to regain control of a first-round pick that was already top 8 protected and therefore eminently keepable if they were willing to tank for it properly. They're killing the Chicago Bulls. Does the front office tend to sign good contracts? Listen, I do think they're being a little bit unfair. They mentioned Patrick Williams is averaging 9.1 or $90 million, which is not a good contract. Kobe is a good contract. Io is a good contract. Jalen Smith was a good contract. I even say the DeMar DeRozan contract, for what it was worth, was a good contract for the production you got out of him. Zach LaVine's extension, he was going to get the max either way, regardless. Lonzo's contract ended up being bad. I think the value was good for the production he could have given, but because of him being injured, it ends up being a bad contract. The Alex Caruso contract was a good contract. You just didn't get anything out of it with trading it. So I think that they've been better at signing good contracts than not, right, when you look at it. But there have been some very big questionable contracts, and everybody's kind of looking at seeing what the Josh Giddey contract's going to look like when that's all said and done, right? And then they said this, the last one, this is the kicker. Is ownership willing to spend enough to win? Despite operating the NBA's third biggest market, I think we thought it was the fourth biggest market, the third biggest market, the Bulls have paid the luxury tax only twice. Only 6 teams have spent less in total tax dollars according to Spot Rack. Now, here's the thing. I've always said this, being willing to spend the luxury tax does not all of a sudden guarantee your team's going to be some great team. Look at the Spurs. I mean, the Suns, for example, right? They're one of those teams. Look at the Philadelphia 76ers. You could spend the tax and still be bad. 22 teams did not pay the luxury tax last year. So it's not like you have to be a high luxury tax spender to be able to be a team that's competing, right? Now, I will say this. The ownership's inability to want to spend in the tax has hurt us at times. For example, if we had been more willing to take back more bad salary because we didn't worry about the luxury tax, even at this trade deadline, we could have gotten more picks back. The DeMar DeRozan, if we were willing to take back Harrison Barnes, which was the bad contract, but he ends up being the better player, right? In that deal, we would have got a first-round pick back. So there are things that are going in that type of a way that you can say, hey, or even the exceptions that we have. We have, a $15 million trade exception, something like that we're not going to use. We created another trade exception, this past trade. I can't remember what it is, but we're probably not going to use it. We let a trade exception expire last year that we didn't use, and the reason why is because we're not willing to pay the luxury tax. So it definitely impacts the team not being able to be its most optimal for sure. Would never say anything different with that one. But hey, this is a ranking that's definitely earned. And it is what it is. I'm not going to fight this at all. Like, the Bulls suck. The Bulls suck, and they've earned every bit of the criticism that comes their way with the way that this front office has managed things. Now, maybe things start going in a better way. You hit on this year's draft pick, you hit on next year's draft pick, hell, you hit on the 2027 draft pick, as well as Matas developing. All right, maybe we're off to the races there, right? But it's going to be a very, very long time before I think we look at this Bulls team and actually say and think this is a team that can compete, like really, really compete. And by competitive, I mean like at the base level of competitive, win a playoff series, right? That's the competitive level that I'm looking at. So, we'll see where it goes with that. But with that said, with the Bulls being there, there's a couple of lineups that I would love to see the Chicago Bulls use. Again, I'm not saying they need to go to a starting lineup or anything with this, but I do think that this is a lineup that I would really like to see. Now we got to get the pieces of this all healthy, right? But with the way that things are going, I would really love to see a lineup, and these two of these players got to get healthy, but I got to alternate. I would love to see a lineup of Josh Giddey, Lonzo Ball, Matas Buzelis at the 3, Patrick Williams or Julian Phillips at the 4, and Jalen Smith at the 5. Now, what does this lineup do? And again, I'm not saying this needs to be the starting lineup, not saying that at all. But I would love to see this lineup mainly because, A, the passing that you have on this lineup, it frees up Buzelis, Patrick Williams, and Jalen to really attack, right? And you have the passers that are going to get them the ball. You really see what you have in them. If it's Julian Phillips instead of Patrick Williams in there, you even have another versatile defender. I like that, right? And then I think also with having with the way that Josh Giddey has been scoring lately, right? That's something else that I want to explore. Like, Lonzo Ball and Josh Giddey's minutes together are actually been a positive. And I know that Lonzo has not been shooting the ball well, but with Giddey's offense developing, and I know that I don't want to see this as the starting lineup. I want to be clear here because I think you need Lonzo's passing sometimes, and you have to stagger those guys to get them off off the bench. But I think that if you have Giddey and Lonzo with both the way that they're able to create open looks and make difficult passes, at that point, Buzelis, Julian Phillips, Jalen, they just got to move, right? If it is Patrick Williams, I know the Bulls fans are out on Patrick Williams, understandably so I'm not even gonna fight that one. But I just think that this lineup, and when you look at the Josh Giddey and Lonzo Ball have played 365 minutes together. In that time, they're plus 85. They have a net rating of plus 11, an offensive rating of 119, and a defensive rating of 108. Keep in mind, league average defensive rating is 110. So a true shooting percentage of almost 60%, an effective field goal shooting percentage of 58%. Now, some of those minutes with them together, of course, was with Zach LaVine out there, but it does show that Lonzo and Giddy can play together. And I think when you're looking at these young players, the rest of these players are players that you're trying to develop. Jalen Smith may be your starting center next year. We'll see what happens, right? Matas Buzelis is the future of your team. Julian Phillips or Patrick Williams, whatever one of those guys that you have in there, these are still guys you're still trying to evaluate as well. Patrick Williams is trying to get to wake up some. Julian Phillips, you're still trying to figure out before he goes into needing an extension exactly what he can be at the NBA level. I like the ability. I want to see this lineup a little bit more, but we got to get the guys healthy, right? Julian is there. Patrick's not going to be healthy for 2 weeks. We'll see when Jalen Smith's coming back with his face injury, but these are lineups I would really like to see the Bulls kind of explore a little bit more when it's all said and done. So we'll see what the future does hold there, but let me know what you guys think of that lineup. I think that that's a lineup where it's like it's more of a traditional NBA lineup, right? And I think traditional size at the forward positions, you're actually running 2 forwards out there as well. And I would like to see that you can even do a variation of that where maybe it's Lonzo and Dalen out there if you want to, give Dalen some minutes as well to see what he looks like with the passer like Lonzo out there. But that's a lineup that I would really like to see some of. I'm not saying they need to be starting. I'm not saying they need to be playing 20 minutes together a game. But I would just like to see that lineup and see that explored a little bit more and what it brings to the Chicago Bulls. But you guys let me know how you feel on that down below. With that said, we do have a game tonight. And I know usually I like to preview the game. This is what the team does on offense. This is what the team does on – I don't care about none of that. This is the Dust Bowl. We may actively see 2 teams try to out-terrible each other to see who can actually, drop. Now, it does have implications on the playoff contention, though, right? Despite the Bulls being in one of the longest losing streaks in the league at 6, the Philadelphia 76ers are right there with us, right? Now, the 76ers are 1.5 games back of the Bulls. The Brooklyn Nets are only a half game back of the Chicago Bulls, right? And so because of that, this is a game that could have some serious implications if the Bulls do lose tonight, right? The Brooklyn Nets could leapfrog the Bulls, and the Bulls could finally get out of play in contention, right? Now, I'm not advocating for the Bulls to come out there and try to actively lose against this team. The Brooklyn Nets also have a game against the Washington Wizards tonight. But this is a game where it could have serious implications on play-in seeding, also on the lottery. If the Brooklyn Nets leapfrog the Chicago Bulls, right, and tonight and go into that. Now, we still got a lot of season left, so it's not to be said that it's going to stay that way. But the Bulls get even more chance at better lottery odds, right? At that point, the Bulls could go into 7th. They can even get into 6th potentially, right, with the Philadelphia 76ers if they win any more over this week. So this is a game where it could be a lot more important for play, especially keep in mind, the Brooklyn Nets are going to hold the tiebreaker over the Chicago Bulls as well. So don't overlook that also in all of this, right? So this is a game to watch what happens with this one, right? If the Bulls lose tonight, that play-in, they fall out of the play-in, and it's a chance that they keep falling with how they've been playing lately. We just got to see how it's going to go. Again, I'm not advocating for anything one way or another. I just want to see my team go out and compete, but it is something to look out for. It is something to watch here for the remainder of the season because this could be the time where, hey, the Bulls go all in. They're not going to tank. They're not going to tank. They're just a bad basketball team. But this is a game where I would see that the Philadelphia 76ers come out and bust the Bulls' ass because we are the Chicago Bulls. But the Dust Bowl tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers will be live on the channel for pregame, halftime, and the postgame shows, all live. Let's go ahead and get into the mailbag, though. We got 3 voicemails I want to get into. This one's from TJ.
Yo, what's up, hey? This is TJ from the low end. So look, man, this might be a little controversial, but honestly, thinking of the future of the team, I would truthfully prefer Josh Giddey over Kobe White. Now, hear me out. I love Kobe. He cold. He one of my favorite Bulls on the team. But I'm just thinking strictly based on Matas and his progression, I would prefer Josh Giddey to be the main ball handler with Zoe if we decide to keep him to kind of elevate Matas. I feel like Kobe could potentially help him get better, but I feel like Josh Giddey and Zoe will be more likely to give him that extra oomph and that extra bump that he may need. I think he needs past first guys around him. Of course, as long as Josh Giddey starts, progressing alongside Matas, I feel like they could be a good, guard, forward, tandem, and get them a nice dominant, imposing big. I feel like we'll have something with this young core, especially with Ayo as a 2 guard. Like, But like that could be a solid little lineup for real. And shoot, ship off Pat if he still ain't become nothing. Put Julian and or Dalen in there too. Come on, man. That sounds like a little solid little fire. So yeah, let me hear what you think. Who do you think would be better for Matas's development and progression as a player and potentially as a star? Because that's how I'm thinking. If I want Matas to be the star, I wouldn't want him to be with another scorer first guard. Like, although Kobe is a point guard, he can facilitate. He does prove himself to be a facilitator at times. I feel like Josh Giddey, that's really like his shtick. That's his thing. His thing is getting passes through, and he can get the passes to Matas that he may need to take that next step. Yeah, man, let me hear what you think. Peace.
Josh Giddey over Kobe White. And I love the fact that you did present this as who's better for Matas's development. That's a really interesting part of this, right? And here's the thing. Giddey's 22 years old. If you could guarantee that the way Giddey's been playing over the last 5-ish games, don't quote me, it could be a longer stretch than that, but how he's played over the last handful of games, I would say Giddey. I would say Giddy adamantly because of his ability to facilitate. I think Giddy's assist numbers would go up as well if he wasn't sharing the court always with one or two other point guards that have been distributing the ball pretty well. I think that if you can tell me that, so if you look at this world, I think this is a great way to look at it. If how Giddy has been over the last handful of games is who he's going to be for the rest of his career versus if Kobe White is consistent and he's going to be consistent for the rest of his career, who is better for for Matas's development? Of course, with Giddy being more of a facilitating type point guard, you would naturally go to that. I'd say this, though, Kobe White's ability to drive and create opportunities off driving like he did last season could be great for Matas Buzelis, especially if Matas could develop that three-point shot consistently, and he's then a threat to shoot the three off a Kobe drive or put the ball on the floor with his dribble and handles and get to the rim. That's a dangerous combination as well there, right? But I think that but it's so many what ifs in that scenario, right? And much as I love Kobe, and I've been a Kobe supporter for a while, even before Kobe was playing last year, go back and look at it. The first year of this podcast, when Kobe White was averaging an inefficient like 8 points off the bench, I was still a Kobe White guy because I looked at what the role was and how he stepped up defensively at times that year. So I've always been a Kobe White supporter, but I think at some point you have to either go younger and bide on that or not. Man, that's a great question, man. And I don't want to punch your question down. I say right now, based off the criteria that I just pointed, I'd probably say Josh Giddey. And that actually that pains me to say that, but because that's how much of a Kobe White supporter I am. But like I said, I like to be objective, so I'd probably have to say Josh Giddey. But great question there, TJ. Let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one's from Vikram.
Yeah, what up, guys? It's Vikram. I was looking at the draft lottery stuff, and it looks like the Bulls have a legitimate chance to enter that 5th spot in the draft lottery odds. And the reason I say that is because Toronto has the easiest schedule for the rest of the season. The Nets have been on a great last 10 win to loss ratio. They're 7-3 from what I'm looking at. Philadelphia has sucked, but so have we. But I think we have a legitimate chance at jumping up to that 5th spot. If we do, that increases our odds at a top 4 pick by 16%. And I think that I know that's not the goal of this team, but I feel that needs to be the goal of the Bulls, is to at least make it into that 5th spot so we're sitting good. But I guess from that I have a question about do you think next season if we get a top 4 pick, we stay at 5 and get a really good player like DJ Edgecombe or I don't know, the center from Duke, Malulak. I forget how to pronounce his name, but if we get one of those two players, will Matas Buzelis do you see Matas Buzelis being prioritized more or less than them? Because in all honesty, I don't know how much the Bulls are really prioritizing his development as much as we want him to be prioritized. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts.
My personal belief on this draft is that outside of the top 3, if you're not going to get into the top 3, a lot of the players, I would say the majority of the players have similar ceilings. Now, there are some, of course, that are a little bit higher than others, but I think after the top 3, you have players that can be career starters for you all the way down to about pick 20. So I'm not in this thing of where I think that the Bulls have to keep trying to bottom out currently because to get better lottery odds, because they don't right now have the type of they don't have the leeway. They aren't bad enough to guarantee that they're going to be like in the top 4. They just don't have that, right? So they're going to have some lottery luck one way or another. And so because of that, I'm not for the Bulls like losing a bunch of things because I think you got some damn good talent overall in this draft, and you can get starter level talent down to about pick 20. So that's where I sit on that one, right? And it's just about you finding that diamond in the rough. Of course, a higher draft pick gets you a more bigger pool of players that you can pick from. But I'm just not in the place where it's like, oh, the Bulls got to bottom out here, and there. I think if they avoid making the play in, that's all I really want for this team personally, right? Now, as far as Billy Donovan, I do honestly feel like the Bulls will not ever be a good team at development as long as Billy Donovan's the head coach. I don't trust Billy Donovan to develop a shoe. So I don't think the only thing I trust Billy Donovan to develop is a code. So I don't think that we will ever really be able to say that we're really developing guys in a meaningful and amazing way until Billy Donovan's no longer the head coach. That's my personal opinion, and that's where I sit on it. So great voicemail, Vikram. Let's get into the last one, man. This one's from Shay.
Hey, what's up, Hayes? This is Shay. Look, I gotta really say something to these retarded Bulls fans who want us to tank so bad. Now, look, I know everybody got their own opinion, but let me ask y'all a question. And this is a common sense question. What is the point of tanking when we've seen in the past, when we have tanked with guys like Kobe White, Paul Zips, and all the other guys like Kevin Payne, we still ended up with the 7th pick, which ended up being Wendell Carter Jr. and Kobe White. Okay? What is the point of tanking when last year, matter of fact, this past draft, a team like the Atlanta Hawks, who we beat in the play-in, and I'm going to say it again, who we beat in the play-in, got the number 1 overall pick, but a team like the Memphis Grizzlies didn't, who were much worse off. Matter of fact, I didn't even say that. A team like the Washington Wizards, who were worse than them, didn't pick number 1 or 2. Now, look, I understand high points of a first-round pick if you're a lower bottom feeding team. I get it. But to just flat out wanting to lose when you've already said it doesn't work out in the Chicago Bulls' favor, that's how we ended up getting 7th pick 2 years in a row. And you already say that it doesn't work out in other teams' favor, like the Washington Wizards, who are currently in a bit of a bind right now. And not only that, it really didn't work out for the Spurs wasn't necessarily a bottom feeding team before they went beyond it, because I think they were in the mix of play-in contention as well as we are. Now, look, I'm not saying try to win and try to build for playoff season, because we're far from that. I'm not irrational Bulls fan, but I'm just saying, what is the point to trying and wanting to lose? Because it won't get you a number 1 or a number 2 overall pick as we saw in the past. I'm just saying. Anyway, hey, tell me what you think. Oh, and P.S., you also got to remember something. The year we got Derrick Rose, we wasn't necessarily a bottom feeding team. Now, we did miss the playoffs, but I think a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves or the Golden State Warriors were worse than us. Correct me if I'm wrong, Hayes. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
Said at the start of the season, the only reason that so many Bulls fans and Bulls content creators talked about tanking, and I use that for lack of a better word, was because our pick was top 10 protected to the Spurs. Now that protection is removed, much like I said to Vikram in the last one, I don't think the Bulls are going to be bad enough to get a top 3 or 4 pick, right? And like you said, even when the Bulls have, you've gotten 7th, right? So I think at this point, you just got to trust your scouting department. You got to do your thing. Like, the Bulls are going to naturally lose games. You don't have to tank. This is a bad basketball team. I've told you guys it was bad. This is about 25 games into the season. This is a bad basketball team. They're going to lose a lot of games. And so you just got to say what you're going to do, or just trust your scouting and things at that point and hope that you get the right guy. Now, you did say the Spurs, right? The Spurs did trade DeJounte Murray at the beginning, the beginning of that season for not much back. But then again, maybe that was just them looking to aggregate talent. I don't know, but, there's that part of it as well. But, yeah, at this point, it's not about the Bulls tanking to me. They're going to lose enough games one way or another. I want to see this team go out and compete and try to win basketball games and see us fight in some games and see how the young players develop over that time, right? That's my thought process. You guys always can let me know how you feel down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.